Once again, good morning everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you all. So as I look around the room, I see people of different ages. I think we may have various different decades here. I also see people of different races in this room, as well as different cultures, different genders. And I'm sure if we started to talk a little bit more, you might find different ideologies as well, different things that we believe in. You may also have different lifestyles. Some people may like to sleep in uncomfortable situations, and some can only sleep on a comfortable bed. Some can sleep when the lights are on, some cannot sleep when the lights are on. And also, if I asked you the question, would you rather live in the cold winter of Alaska or the summers of Las Vegas, we may have different answers as well. So we're all different. Some born in the 50s, perhaps. And some born in the 20th century. In the 90s, I don't think anyone here is born in the 2000s. But these are differences. We're different in so many ways when we look at each other. However, why is it that when we see an old lady who fell down from the stairs, we all run to help her? Why is it that when we hear the story of the Taliban in Afghanistan killing the parents of the child, we become angry and feel sad for the child? Why do we all smile when our favorite player scores a goal in your favorite sport? This is because we are much the same than we are different. And throughout this presentation, I'm going to go over that. But in order to notice our similarities, it takes noticing, looking for them, identifying it. And this is something that is quite common in a principle called the reticular activating system. But I'll get to that in just a second. Have any of you ever seen a shoe that you would like to get, that you've been thinking about buying, and all of a sudden you see people wearing it on the streets? Have any of you had that experience? Or perhaps a car that you're interested in, and then you see people driving that car much more frequently. So, this is regulated by a part of our brain called the reticular activating system. And this system helps us to notice things, but also it helps us to not notice certain things. And when you think about it, you don't really want to notice your heart beating all the time. You may not want to be in control of when you blink all the time. You may not want to control your digestion as well. That's a lot of work. So the reticular activating systems allows us to be able to put to the background things that aren't important and put to the forefront the things you want to focus on. And that is why you may notice the shoe that you wanted to buy. That is why you may notice the car that you wanted to buy as well. But as a result of this, we tend to not notice a lot of things in our lives. And that's one of the reasons why in this world we live in today, people notice the bad things more than they notice the good. The media is filled with problems that are happening. And the reality with that is we notice those things because we need to address them, because it's the problem. I don't think we notice every day how our arms are working okay. You may not notice that your eyes are working properly because they're supposed to. But if you woke up one day and you couldn't see well, you'll notice it, would you not? So that expanded is what comes about in people only seeing what's wrong with society. And that's what enables us to see notice our differences as opposed to our similarities. So this is what I'll go over in the Principles of Peace seminar today. How we can notice more how similar we are than not, and how this can bring about a world of peace. And at the end of today's seminar, I hope we can all understand these 4 points. The first one is to deepen our understanding of what peace truly means. The second is to recognize the shared humanity that unites us all. The third is to inspire each of us to become active peacemakers in our own lives and communities. And the fourth, to learn about the fundamental principles of the universe. So these are the 4 key things we'll be going over today. So before we start, I have a question for you. What is peace? What comes to mind when you think of the word peace? What does that look like? What does that feel like? It's a question.
Peace. I can hear my daughter's voice every morning. It's very peaceful.
Hearing your daughter's voice every morning. Thank you. Anyone else? Richard.
I'd say it brings to mind the idea of like clear seas and smooth sailing. Maybe some problems are there, but nothing that can't be handled, you know. Everything's taken care of.
Thank you. Clear seas, smooth sailing. It's a great way to put it. Anyone else? When you think of peace, what comes to mind?
No conflict in my mind.
No conflict in your mind. Yes. Would you like to take a guess at it?
Like similar to maybe no conflicting myself or even others, no fighting spirit to myself and others.
Yeah. You think? Would you like to chime in?
I'm trying to. I think it's where you feel like true joy.
True joy.
Yeah, like you have no worries. Like a happiness just comes when everything is kind of clear.
Thank you.
Like what you're saying.
True joy.
Yeah.
Mr. Teal, would you like to share?
Peace between husband and wife.
Oh.
Peace between parents and children.
Yeah, peace between husband and wife, parents and children. So, what you all mentioned is right. It's all a part of peace. In order to experience true peace, I felt that first we have to look inward. We have to try to find peace within us. And that peace within us can manifest and emanate to our surroundings. So, I'd like to do a quick exercise of meditation. So please find a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down, and allow your body to relax. And close your eyes. Picture yourself sitting on the bank of a river. It's peaceful. The birds are chirping. The river is flowing. You don't have anything to worry about. No school assignments. Everything at home is peaceful. You are here by yourself to look deep within your mind and your heart. Take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. Let go of any tension you may be holding. As you continue to breathe deeply and slowly, imagine a warm, gentle light surrounding you. This light represents peace and harmony. With each inhale, feel this peaceful energy entering your body. And with each exhale, let go of any stress or negativity in your life. Now bring your attention to your heart center. Imagine a soft glow emanating from within, growing brighter with each breath. As this inner light grows, feel a sense of calm washing over you. Notice how your mind becomes quieter and your thoughts are slowing down. In this moment of stillness, you're experiencing a glimpse of true peace. This is the harmony that exists within you and connects you to everything around you. Observe how this inner peace feels. There's no conflict here, no resistance. You're in perfect alignment with yourself and the world. Realize that this state of being is always available to you. It's your true nature, often hidden beneath the noise of daily life. As you sit in this peaceful state, consider how different the world would be if everyone could access this inner harmony. This is the foundation of true peace. Not just the absence of conflict, but the presence of profound connection and understanding. Take a few moments to bask in this feeling of inner peace and harmony. Know that you can return to this state whenever you need to, simply by turning your attention inward. When you're ready, slowly bring your awareness back to your surroundings. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, open your eyes. Carry this sense of inner peace with you as you return to your day. Remembering that true harmony begins within. Wake up. You can sleep anywhere. So, did any of you feel peaceful within? Moderately so. So in order for us to understand what peace is and what peace truly could be, we first need to understand what peace could be within ourselves. Now imagine how the world would be if this sense of peace that you felt within was everywhere around you. No resistance, no fear. Your eyes were closed, I could have come and stabbed you. But you felt safe. You felt comfortable. And you felt at ease with everything happening in life. So that's what peace could be in this world. And we break down peace into 3 different categories of it. First is inner peace. Inner peace is calmness, contentment, resilience, and compassion. It's where you feel calm, you feel content with everything you have and everything that's happening. You feel a sense of strength, and you feel a sense of compassion. Then we have interpersonal peace. These are harmonious relationships with people, resolving conflicts amongst people, a sense of empathy towards others, respect and kindness. This fosters interpersonal peace. And all of it comes together in societal and global peace, where we have harmonious societies and environmental harmony, where it's not just peace within people and communities, but also within all of nature, where we are one, caring for it. And we all share one world. The hope, how many of you have ever hoped for world peace before? Anyone hope for world peace? Okay, so everyone except for Megumi-san. She hopes for cat. Peace amongst the cat world. Felines. So, but would you say that we live in a peaceful world? So some say yes, some say no. Because it's interesting when you look around the world. Are we in a better place today than we were 200 years ago?
In some ways.
In some ways. In some ways. 200 years ago, it wasn't pretty in many parts of the world, right? I know my country was colonized a little over 200 years ago. And like I said, it wasn't until 1957 that we became independent. And throughout that time period, there was a lot of bloodshed. And so, today, fortunately, my country doesn't face that. However, we hear about the war in Ukraine and between the Ukrainians and Russians. We hear about between the Palestinians and Israelis. And also, today, they say the most number of slaves ever is in today's world through human trafficking. And it's a very, I think, a $56 billion industry as well. And so, but you can say that today you don't live in fear of dying from a pandemic as much, right? It's something like the measles or polio or smallpox. You don't live in fear of someone killing you because you believe in something different. That's a sense of peace. So in many ways, we live in a more peaceful time, but also in some ways, it's not as peaceful. But the work of peace is advanced by people who care about peace. And some of you may know this gentleman right here, Martin Luther King Jr. He was a man who put his life on the line for the sake of bringing unity and harmony in communities and societies around America. And he changed the world. And he said in his speech, like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I am not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And he's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to that promised land. That's what Martin Luther said. And as history would unfold, he was killed. However, the impact that he had in the world is undeniable. But why did he do all of this? What was his motivating factor to make this happen? And why was he the one to bring about such tremendous change in a time of civil unrest? Here, his motivating factor, some of you might know, he was a preacher. He said, I want to do God's will. And that moved him to change the world, to make it even more peaceful. And he's the reason why we can share a space together. It's the reason why we are here. And it's because of these peace leaders that the world has become more peaceful. However, world peace is not easy. You heard from last night, if you gave any religion or any people 20 years to realize world peace, it seems almost impossible. It almost seems like it's so far away. But today, I would like to share with you something very fundamental relationship in the universe, the most ancient practice, as old as life itself. And it is to this that we owe our survival today. And this ancient practice and relationship is family. As old as life itself. There are many who went to war throughout all of history, but who did they fight to protect? Your family. There is something about the people who you grew up with, the people who cared for you, the people who loved you, that brings about a relationship where you would not even think of harming them. You would not think of causing tremendous pain to them. Now, this does not discount family struggles. I probably fought the most with my siblings growing up than anyone else. However, what's undeniable is the fact that I care about them and I love them. Growing up, my mom worked in America because she was the one caring for our family in Africa. We lived with our father who was doing missionary work. So I only saw my mother about 2 weeks every year. And since then, I moved to America. I live in Las Vegas now. She lives in Manhattan. My older sister is in Japan. My younger brothers are in Ghana with my father. And I haven't seen my younger brothers for about 12 years. I haven't seen them since then. But we have a Facebook, we have a WhatsApp chat. And to me, it's very clear. These are people I care about, I care for, because they're family. And so when we understand this, I believe that we can understand the basic principle of how we can bring about world peace. Because it's an understanding that we share one home. And that home is this earth. And that we are connected as one family. And when we can deeply understand this, we will start to not think about harming others. We will start to have a deeper sense of love for people. And I think we can all agree that if we see each other as one family, that this world will be a peaceful place. No parent will let their child go hungry. No brother or sister would let their sister or brother go hungry either. And so in order to understand, as you saw in the previous diagram, that we are one family, we need a parent. We need a source. Because life comes from something. When we look at our life now, it's very evident that every being comes from a parent. So when we think of God as our origin in this world, we can see God as the parent of all of humanity, which you can call our heavenly parent. And this was introduced by a young lady, as you saw last night. I'd like to read from her memoir. At a young age, I directly witnessed the horror of war and experienced the wretched life of a refugee. The simple and innocent were killed like flies. Children who had lost their parents were crying and wandering in the streets. I was only 7, but it became so serious that war has to vanish forever from this world. Her name is Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, and she was a refugee from North Korea, escaping the Korean War to the south, where peace prevailed. But at a young age, she saw so many people die in front of her. Some of you may know the story of her witnessing going across the Han River Bridge. And as soon as she got over, it was blown up. And she describes seeing litters of bodies just flying everywhere. And she calls that the blue flash of death. And she still remembers it vividly till today. So when she saw that, she became so serious that war has to vanish forever from this world. So she dedicated her whole life, together with her husband, to bring about a world of peace. From the young age of 7, her husband already ascended to the spirit world, but together until his dying breath, and currently her old age of 81, she continues to bring about peace projects to advance us towards a world of peace and harmony. And I'd like to share briefly some things that she has done. These are logos, but they all tell a different story. These are all things that she had started. For example, together they started an organization called Universal Peace Federation. This is an organization that is in consultative status with the United Nations. And they are currently working towards something called the Asia-Pacific Union. Some of you may know of the African Union. The African Union is all the nations in Africa coming together to allow for peace within Africa, to allow for easy travel within Africa, for better relationships within Africa, essentially considering Africa as one people. The same goes for the European Union, as some of you might know. But there is none such in Asia. So that's a big project they're working on to connect the entire Asia Pacific area. Women's Federation, I'll talk about in just a bit second from now, but they are a federation of women, also in consultative status with the United Nations. And they've done tremendous things to help the world in various different ways. This is families coming together for the sake of world peace. Family Federation. And there's tremendous education that happens there. WCLC. This is the World Clergy Leadership Conference. And this is the first time Christians of different denominations are coming together to have a common identity for the sake of world peace. Many of you may know that Christianity has been very divided from very early on. There are many different factions and denominations, at least 25 recognized ones, but probably hundreds, much more, that aren't. However, this organization has brought together Catholics, various Protestants like Lutherans, Calvinists. You have the Methodists, Baptists. You have the United Methodists all coming together for the sake of world peace, working together, and they meet every single month to hold a seminar to bring people together. So that's another organization she started. I don't have time to go through all of this, but this one is Ocean Providence, where you can bring about peace by feeding everybody in the world. And the ocean is abundant with resources. So they sent two boats to every country in the world. And they started a company, a fish company, that supplies fish to all the major hotels in Las Vegas and various different places around the country. And the profits all go towards this common purpose of feeding the world. These are called Youth and Students for Peace, YSP, young people doing service projects, serving the community. GPA, young people going out on missionary work, to evangelize, to work on themselves. This is CARP, these are young adults in college who are working towards being the best person they can be for the sake of the world. This is Ocean Church, very similar to Ocean Providence. ACLC is the American version of WCLC, the American. BCSF, that's Sports for Peace, sports festival. Recently we had a Peace Cup where people come together. The common purpose is let's come together in the spirit of unity and harmony to play for the sake of something much greater than ourselves. I'm going to go through this very quickly as well. They also started universities, invested into education, and a lot more than I put here. But these are the higher education institutes. Wongu University is the only Oriental medicine school in the state of Nevada. And they started it. This is where you can learn acupuncture. This is where you can learn various different Oriental practices. And it's going on today. This is Hyojong Institute Graduate School for Peace and Public Leadership. Currently very active in America with students from all around the world attending. This is Sun Moon University, the most diverse university in South Korea today. And also, we have various different high schools, various different elementary schools, various different middle schools, where I don't have enough time to go over. But what I want to illustrate is their commitment to peace, the commitment to worldwide peace. Let me tell you a story. I was born in Ghana, West Africa, and I was fortunate enough to go to a private school. And private school was fine. Our teachers cared enough about us to beat us up when we didn't do well. But the key point is that they cared. I had textbooks, I had a table, I had a chair, and I had people who cared about their education too. But every day at 5 o'clock, 5 p.m., after I came back from school, my dad would ask me to go and play soccer. He wanted me to be a professional soccer player. So we'd go to the park across our home to play soccer with the locals. And that soccer field is right next to, on the compound of a public school. So some students from that school will come out and play together. So what happened, one day, I asked one of my friends, who I was playing soccer with, I asked him, how was school? And then he shared with me, I came to school around 8 o'clock. Our teacher arrived at 9:30. He talked for about 30 minutes, and he told us to go and play for the rest of the day. That blew my mind. My school started at 6 a.m. and ended at 4:30 p.m. with my teacher teaching us every time. My teacher trying to take other teachers' education slot. That's the environment that I grew up in school, but he didn't have access to that kind of education. So at that time, I realized how fortunate I was, but also how unfortunate the educational system was if you couldn't afford private education. So every year, what I found out was there were 3 missionaries who came to Ghana. They came because they started a school, a public school, a few public schools. And every year they come to fund that school, to check on the teachers, to provide utilities like textbooks, tables, chalk for the whiteboard, to make sure that the teachers are paid, to make sure that the students have notebooks, to make sure that they have education. And it wasn't until I was much older that I realized that was the work of Women's Federation. What I showed you about before, this organization, it's not there. This organization was started by Mother Moon in 1992. And a big project that they do is called Schools of Africa, where they go to every single country in Africa to make sure that students can be able to be educated, no matter your financial situation. So at that age, I felt tremendously how she was working towards a world of peace, even in my country. Also, Ballet for Peace. They started a ballet school called Universal Ballet, where young children can come and perform for the sake of world peace. At a time when Korea was still embroiled in the aftermath of war, they trained young people to travel around the world to be ambassadors for the nation of Korea, performing in front of former President Eisenhower, the royal family in England, to make notice the people of Korea and the plight they faced as well. And they also have a retreat center in Korea. Today it's much, much more beautiful than what you may see here. This is a spiritual retreat where people go to be fully cleansed. Many people go there for 40 days at a time, some people for 21 days, some for 7 days. But it's incredibly beautiful. And when you go there, you will feel a sense of heaven. And there's so much more to do there as well. And the most recent and biggest initiative was Peace Starts With Me. She traveled around the entire world to speak on this message, that in order for us to realize a world of peace, we need to look within, and we need to be the agent of change in the world. We need to be the people who can bring about it. And it all starts with me, with the ripple effect that's created when we contribute to a world of peace. In the 1960s and 70s, they came to America, where America was quite desolate, to bring about a nation that can live with principles that can bring about a future for this world. This was the time of communism as well, spreading all over. In her book, Mother of Peace, she shares a short quote. True peace certainly requires that we resolve the current conflicts between religions, races, and nations. The even greater challenges that we face, however, include the destruction of the environment and demographic trends. The world's leading peace awards focus on solving the problems of the present generation. Yet we must solve the problems of the present in a way that is integrated with a practical vision for a happy future. So she elaborates on what true peace is. We have to solve conflicts of religions, race, nations, but we also have to solve the problem of the destruction of the environment, as well as the demographic trends. Some of you may know that in order to keep a population afloat, you need a total of 2.1 children per woman in a nation. Otherwise, the nation's population will tank tremendously, which causes huge problems. 2.1, but in South Korea today, that is 0.68. 0.68, the lowest in the world. Next is Japan. America is better, but it's still below 2.1 as well. And why is this a problem? Because as people get older, you need young people to take care of the infrastructure. Otherwise, we won't be able to survive as people. So that's what she's referring to. We need to see peace in a holistic way. Not just solving our problems, but also other things that we may not see, like the environment and the demographic trends. So I'd like to talk about Mother Teresa. How many of you know Mother Teresa? I think many of you know Mother Teresa, and she's called Mother Teresa because she's like a mother. That's what she dedicated her life towards. But what you may not know is the reason why she did all that she did. Mother Teresa was already a nun, teaching at various different convents, teaching at various schools. But one day on September 10th, 1946, she was on a journey from a place called Calcutta to Darjeeling on a train. And while she was on that train, she received a calling. Something spoke to her, telling her that you need to serve the poorest of the poor, the poorest people. And it took her 2 years to think about it, because she wanted to make sure that she was doing the right thing, because she was already doing good. And this is what she writes in her book. This is what she calls a calling in a calling. She received a calling to serve the poorest of the poor. And her calling was so, and that's what she did. And that's why we remember her. We saw earlier Martin Luther King's calling. Why did he do what he did? He said, to do God's will. That was his calling. So Mother Moon's calling, the reason she does what she does, because she says her calling is as God's only begotten daughter. And this is the reason why, from the moment she was 7 till today, the age of 21 and going, her whole life has been to bring a world of peace at the expense of her own comfort, her own safety. And that's what has driven her. She says, to truly understand ourselves and our purpose, we need to know the essence of our Heavenly Parent, who created us with love. Only then can we live in harmony with His will and fulfill our divine potential. She's speaking about peace, but she says, in order to understand ourselves and our purpose, we need to understand the essence of God, who created us with love. And only then can we live in harmony with His will and fulfill our divine potential. So that's part 1 of today. Part 2 will go a little bit more in depth with who God is, but more about the principles she teaches us, and the principles that many, hundreds of thousands, millions are practicing today to bring about that world of harmony and peace. And so that will conclude the first lecture. Thank you very much.